Okay, let's dive into your questions on hair loss. How much hair loss is normal or expected due to age? Not much, Jennifer. Most of what people call age is accumulation of damage over time. So damage over time is not the same thing as aging. Aging is a function of time passing. Damage over time is a function of you making decisions that are damaging to your cells or your body, and that multiplying over a factor of time or over the function of time. So hair loss because of age is not generally something that we see. You might see some people that have some hair thinning, and that again, with age, there can be some hormone reduction at certain ages, or especially women going through menopause. But generally speaking, you shouldn't have massive quantities of hair loss as a result of just aging. If you've got hair loss, you've got nutritional problems, even if you're postmenopausal. Let's see. Beverly says hair loss after COVID for 4 months or 4 months after COVID. So generally the hair loss post-infection comes about 3 to 5 months after the infection, and then there's this massive amount of hair loss, and then there's this catch-up period of about 6 months. And that catch-up period, it's very critical to get enough protein in the diet so that you can support your body's ability to grow hair. How long does it take to repair alopecia after taking out gluten and grains? So Jenny, what I just showed you is real typical. And you saw in that case, it was about a 10-month period of time. Now, that being said, it can take, this is my experience, it could take up to 3 years depending on the severity of the hair loss. But that was pretty typical what I showed you, which is about 10 months. I've seen it take longer than that, and I've not really seen it recover much quicker than that. So that was actually one of the quicker turnarounds I've seen. Can gluten cause male pattern baldness? No, not in my experience, not typically. Now what gluten can do is it can cause hormonal androgenic changes that can contribute to it, but that all by itself, in and of itself, no. I've not seen gluten cause genetic hair loss. Okay, so Christy says, I see what causes hair loss, but how do we find out what our specific cause is? Are there tests or blood work we can do? Yes. Testing for gluten, real easy. If you want to know whether or not going gluten-free is the right thing to do, you can do that online. Let's put that link up in the feed. For Christy. Genetic testing for gluten sensitivity is one way to know, and that you can do that without a doctor. You can ask a doctor to run it. The reason why Gluten Free Society offers it is because so many people go and ask their doctor, and their doctor refuses to order the test. So we've just made it direct to consumer so people could access the information. But that's one way. Now, to get food sensitivity and food allergy testing, you really want to work with a doctor who's an expert in that area, because most doctors, they'll do allergy testing, but they'll do like your skin prick allergy test, or they'll do just simply a blood IgE test, and that's not enough, because an IgE allergy is an acute allergy. Generally, that is not what we see responsible for the vast majority of cases of nutritional hair loss. It's usually what's known as a delayed hypersensitivity type of allergy, and so you need to work with a doctor who understands how to measure all the different components of that, because it's more than one type of testing involved. As far as nutritional deficiencies, same thing. And for those of you who I know I've been getting hammered a lot, we're working on those tests becoming available direct to consumer. We're finalizing some of the details, but I'm hoping to have that up by the end of the second quarter of the year. Linda says, I have Hashimoto's, so food moves through my system very slowly. When I eat meat, it slows even further. How do I work around that? You don't probably have food moving through you slowly because of Hashimoto's, unless your Hashimoto's is out of control. Generally, when people have slow bowel function or slow motility, there are just a number of reasons why that can happen. We could do a whole show on that. But Linda, what I will say, one of the simplest tests or things that you can do to see if you can improve that motility is have something called ultra acid. We could put that link up too for Linda. it's a supplement, and you take about 3 to 4 of these at 10 minutes before your meal. And what that does is it puts more acid down on your stomach. And so as you're eating, that acid can help break that food down. A lot of people don't make enough stomach acid. And so what ends up happening is their motility slows down. And remember, acid is also required to absorb protein and to digest protein from the GI tract. So low stomach acid can actually lead to protein malabsorption, maldigestion. Is it okay to take iron for anemia? It is, but make sure you understand that it's an iron deficiency anemia. So not all anemias are iron deficiency. And there are also situations where chronic inflammation can cause kind of what looks like an iron deficiency anemia, but it's not actually an iron deficiency anemia. So you really, again, you want to have that tested specifically. So Nancy's asking, speaking of allergy season, can taking too much Histacyst stress one's gut and therefore hair growth? I haven't seen that be the case, Nancy. What you may be experiencing at the quantity of capsules is if your digestion is struggling, it might struggle to get through the quantity of capsules, but not the actual ingredients in Histacyst, which are actually predominantly nettle, vitamin C, N-acetylcysteine, and bromelain. Let's see here. Can high lectin and high oxalate foods affect hair loss? Lectin can, Barb, like gluten. You can be reactive to certain lectins that drive the inflammatory process, and so too about the same thing is true of oxalate. Although I would say this, oxalate, in my experience, is not generally something that is a primary driver of hair loss. So I would say oxalate kind of down on the bottom of the list of suspicion from my experience, whereas lectin really on a higher level, not quite as high as gluten, but up there. If I eat fruits or veggies I am sensitive to, why does it make my hair fall out? Inflammation, Sarah. Sarah, inflammation is a primary driver of hair loss. And anything that you do that causes excessive inflammation is going to cause your body to produce more cortisol. Remember, what is cortisol? Cortisol is a steroid that your body produces to help you cope and adapt to stress. But unfortunately, as a corticosteroid, just like prescription steroid drugs can cause hair loss, so too can being chronically inflamed, right? Remember, your body does not prioritize hair growth when it's chronically inflamed because it's being exposed to foods that you're reactive to. What treatment would you recommend for alopecia universalis, or is there nothing to do? Linda, there's lots to do. The first thing to do, though, is to find the triggers of autoimmune disease, because generally speaking, even if your hair loss is not reversible, the autoimmune reaction is still happening. And until you figure out what that is, it poses a risk for other diseases. Remember, the average person with one autoimmune disease will develop about 7 in their lifetime. And so the same triggers, right? All autoimmune diseases spawn from the same 4 categorical triggers: food reactions, chemical reactions, microbial imbalance, and nutritional deficiency. Those things should be tested. And again, part of with alopecia universalis is that it depends on how long it's been there. If you're catching it earlier stage, I've seen hair regrowth. If you're catching it super late, decades after, you're probably not going to regain your hair, at least not in my experience, you're not, because I've had cases of that very same condition where we weren't able to help the individual regrow their hair, but we were able to help them in terms of the other autoimmune process, meaning help them make their diet and lifestyle changes to help with the other autoimmune issue. Okay, let's keep going down on the left. let's see, does increasing amounts of hair found in the shower or hairbrush necessarily indicate hair loss? Or is that just normal overturn of old to new hair? It depends on the quantity, Jennifer. And so this is one of those areas where, your hair loss better than anyone else. If you look at the drain, because there's not an exacting way. It's not like, okay, 8 ounces of, or 800 strands of hair rather every day, because nobody counts the strands of hair, but it's generally an amount. And if you see that amount is increasing more aggressively, that's hair loss. If you're seeing that amount not necessarily changing, there's going to be some normal hair loss in the shower. You're going to see hair in the shower drain or in your brush on a regular basis. But again, if you're noticing that that's increasing over what's your general norm, that's where you want to start to have growing concern. If you have very, very thinning hair, that also might be of concern, because some people have had chronic hair loss and their hair is just very thin because they've never had a thick hair, but it doesn't mean they couldn't have thicker hair. It's just because they've never known any different, meaning that their baseline was thinning hair because that's all they've ever experienced. Okay, let's go down. Let's see here. I got, can getting COVID cause hair loss? I think I answered that. My hair is falling out again. I had a lot of stress. Also didn't do well with my gluten-free diet, as well as had COVID. Just wondering. Yeah, I mean, definitely. COVID can cause hair loss again. It's that part of that stress inflammatory cascade that leads to that hair loss several months after the fact, and can take 6+ months to recover it. Let's see, Janelle, I got hammered with 3 antibiotics in 1 month from acute infection after a finger surgery and an abscess tooth. Can I expect with my thinning hair? What can I expect with my thinning hair? I have Hashimoto's. So you have a multifactorial issue, Janelle. You've got to really understand why you have Hashimoto's, which means going back and asking your doctor to measure those 4 categorical triggers. But you've also got antibiotic-induced hair loss, most likely. And that in and of itself is not quite the same thing. So when you say, what can I expect with your thinning hair? You've got to resolve all of those issues, because you've got too many, it's multifactorial. So really, you've got to get testing done to dig your way out of that hole. I mean, you could guess, and you could do a lot of the things that we've talked about tonight, like, going gluten-free, taking a good solid multivitamin with B complex and maybe extra minerals with extra protein. But that may not be the resolution, because if a bigger part of your hair thinning is because of the Hashimoto's, if you don't address why you have it, then you'll never really overcome the hair loss piece. Let's see, if one has adrenal and hypothyroid issues, could those problems cause hair loss? Yes, absolutely. I mentioned hypothyroid already, but adrenal fatigue generally starts with excessive cortisol production by your own adrenal glands, and that can definitely contribute to hair loss. Does vitamin C complex help you mean vitamin C complex or vitamin B complex, help in combination with other vitamins? Yeah, again, I think I answered that question already with vitamin C and the B complex. Yeah, so Diana is just emphasizing about stress. So stress is, again, I did talk about stress as a major factor in hair loss. Major acute stress triggers can cause hair loss, months, hair thinning months down the road. It's not, generally stress is not going to cause the alopecia areata or the autoimmune type of hair loss as much as it's going to cause the generalized hair thinning and loss. Aromatase inhibitors and hair thinning, yes. Aromatase inhibitors can cause hair thinning. Why would COVID cause hair loss for some and not others? Aaron, that's a great question. Not everybody's identical or the same. And I think it happens too many times where people try to compare their experiences with other people's experiences as it relates to their health. Some people's bodies, I had COVID. For all of a few days and, was up and perky and running around. I know other people that had it and were down for a month. we can't compare each other to each other in that regard. Some people, when they get sick, they're malnourished already, right? If you look at a lot of people that, for example, that did get COVID and had a bad experience with it, were malnourished, and that's why they had a bad experience. Whereas others were better nourished and their bodies were better able and better adept at handling it and overcoming and responding well. So everybody's going to have a unique response based on, the thousands and thousands of different variables that occur to that person individually every single day of their life. How they eat, how they cope with stress, how they sleep, how well do they deal with the day-to-day affairs, how much they exercise, whether or not they get adequate sunshine, whether or not they get adequate hydration, whether or not they're eating foods they're allergic to, or whether they're gluten sensitive. Like the variables, the list goes on and on and on. So try not to compare yourself to others. Remember, we're not racing other people for health. We're only in this competition, if we want to call it a competition, with ourselves, right? How can we improve upon, the gift that was given to us at birth, which is life? That's the race. That's where we should really hone in our focus, unless you're a parent and you're trying to hone in your focus for your child as well. But that's really where you want to focus your attention. Our leaders seem to be taking us into a famine and a nuclear war this fall, which is worse for hair loss. I would agree with that. That would definitely be worse for hair loss. I would say turn off the TV, because there's nothing you're going to be able to do to control what our so-called leaders are doing at this time. And so that, watching it is just going to increase stress for you. Be prepared for famine and be prepared for good nutrition should we have a hard time accessing food. That's the best advice I can give you, any of you watching, if you're worried about those types of things. And go back and review my prepper show. I did a prepper show on prepping for food and food storage and what you can do to maintain your gluten-free status should we actually have a major food issue. Are there ways to prevent or reverse graying of hair? I'm 38 and I'm already salt and pepper. Yes, Mikhail, that's a great question. So hair graying is oftentimes a sign of malnutrition. And there are a couple of nutrient deficiencies that you want to pay close attention to with premature graying of the hair. Copper deficiency can cause premature graying, vitamin B12 deficiency, and vitamin B5 deficiency, pantothenate. All those three nutrients can cause premature graying of the hair. Beyond that, you're 38, I would ask you to really, take an assessment or an overview of how stressed out your life is, right? If you're 38 and you're relatively stress-free, or not stress-free, but just relatively coping and adapting to stress really easily and really well, that's great. If you're not, however, if you hate your job, if you're in a bad relationship, if your stress is not being managed well at all, if you're not getting enough sleep, if you're not eating well, those are all things that are going to cause it too, beyond B12, copper, and B5. So take an assessment, do a mini self-stress assessment of how you are in life. And if you're finding yourself super mega stressed most of the time, you got to make the meaningful changes in your life to protect yourself. I've had clients that come to see me that they hate their job, right? Sometimes I hear it described as, my job slowly sucks my soul out of my body every day I go to work. That's not good. You don't want to work. You don't want to spend 40 years or 50 years of your life trying to save up your money so that you can retire. And then at the end of your career, your health is so destroyed by the stress that you've induced because you weren't fulfilling your purpose in life and you weren't really in tune with what you were doing. It's just not worth it. So create an exit strategy. Let's see here. I know someone who's 400 pounds and has cystic acne and severe bowel dysfunction, yet he has a full head of hair. My entire male family has androgenic alopecia, yet blood work hormones are normal. How? This goes back, David, to don't try to compare yourself to what other people have or don't have. I don't know if what I talked about tonight with your particular type of hair loss was helpful, but I would go back, if you haven't already, and have those things specifically measured.
Hey, if you've got a functional medicine or health question that you'd like me to answer for you, make sure you send me an email, glutenology@gmail.com, and we'll do our best to create a video answer just for you. Have a great day.